Hey, hey, hey. Time for another out of this world story from rSpace. I found out the depth of my ex-wife's infidelity from my new wife. Here just a vent. I have no way of getting closure from this due to my ex-wife being dead. My ex and I were high school sweethearts and married 2 years after high school. She was truly my first love. I joined the Navy after high school and I asked, let's call her Lisa, to marry me. I left for boot camp, a school and sub-school, job training for civilians. I would see her whenever I could. She would come out to see me, and it always felt like I was the most important person in the world to her. She had a way of making me feel like I loved and desired, and I would return the favor in every way I could. For some context, my ex-wife was what the internet would call a BBW, which is my kind of woman. If I knew then what I know now, I wouldn't have married her. Although I loved every inch of her body, she didn't. I'm not making excuses for her bad behavior. I've just had a few years to reflect on what went wrong. She had very low self-esteem, and what I would find out later, any interest from any other man would help boost that. Some of you know just how that works. Her personality was what really grabbed me. She had a smile that would light up the room and a laugh that I found intoxicating. Without dragging this out, I was head over heels for this woman. Being in the Navy, I was very aware that the life of a Navy wife was hard. You take a woman away from her family and friends, drop them in a town with no one, then you leave for months on end. I attributed the problems we had and the distance that grew between us to that. I decided early on in my enlistment that I would need to get out just after one tour. In my mind, my enlistment was killing my marriage, even though I exceeded expectations under my command, in which my XO and CO pleaded with me to re-enlist. She just had a hold on me and I wanted to make her as happy as she had made me. I had a thought in the back of my mind that she may have been unfaithful to me while she was back home, and I on the other side of the country. But me being young and dumb and in love didn't see the clear signs that she was cheating on me. So I get out of the Navy and come home. I feel so confident that all those thoughts I had and behaviors that were so unlike her would go away and we would be us again. I couldn't have been farther from the truth. She was so cold to me, leaving the room when her phone would ring, getting off work at 4 p.m., about not getting home till 10 p.m. on a nightly basis. I called during these times and no answer. Weekends with the girls where I knew all the girls but was never invited, even though some of their significant others were supposed to be there. Our sex life went from anytime, anywhere to nothing. At first I attributed this to her body image issues, which she gaslighted me into believing was the cause. I allowed this to continue for 3 months when I called her on her BS. She got angry at me for thinking like that and told me I had been acting very difficult to her friends and to the life she had built for herself while I was gone. She twisted the whole thing around on me like I was crazy, but in my core, I just knew it had to be something else. I followed my gut this time and left her. We divorced and I moved on with my life. Not willing to allow myself to fall in love like that again, where I couldn't tell up from down, I went on a sexual bender. I would smash 2 or 3 women a week before Tinder and social media, just meeting women and giving them the D. The old-fashioned way. I had time to make up for being faithful to Lisa our entire relationship. Fast forward 4 years, Lisa died in a car crash. And during the funeral and repast, I ran into an old classmate of ours. We'll call her Alice. Lisa had remarried and I had a kid, so our relationship was over as can be. Alice had a crush on me back in high school, and I noticed them yams back then. Neither one of us acted on this attraction due to my relationship with Lisa. A month goes by, and I inbox Alice. I couldn't get her out of my mind, so I took my shot. Once I finally got her on the phone, things were weird. I could tell she was into me, but I could tell she was holding back. Come to find out, Alice was the roommate to Lisa's godsister during our marriage. After a few conversations and a couple of dates, she opened up to me. She only learned that me and Lisa were married through her obituary. She told me that she had no idea we got married because every time she would see Lisa, she was with a different guy. She even told me that she had walked in on Lisa and a few of these guys having sex. She didn't think anything of it because they were some of the only friends in their circle that had their own place. Everyone else still lived at home and their apartment became somewhat of a flophouse, which is why she felt the need to move out as soon as she could. But due to her not having a good job or even good prospects, lasted longer than she would have liked. Alice asked me if that was the reason for our divorce, and out of sheer embarrassment, I told her yes. I had no idea about how many guys or how long or how deep her infidelity went. She would tell her friends she was going on a cruise or a vacation out of town, and that would be the times she would come see me in whatever duty station I was at. She would return with gifts that I had given her, money, and even a couple of cars I had bought her. Alice thought she had a sugar daddy, which was my dumbass. She never questioned it, she just chalked it up to them being young and just enjoying life as independent women. She herself had been dating an older man and felt it wasn't her place to judge. I had to keep up the ruse of me knowing and being over it, but I couldn't help but allow the conversations about Lisa to continue to the point where I could piece together some of the doubts that I had about Lisa and our relationship that I wish I didn't know. Like how she had been on the phone with me while being in a four-way with the roommate, her boyfriend, and a guy Lisa brought by. It was like everything I thought didn't sound right or that didn't make sense at the time was brought to light in the worst case scenario. She had been cheating on me since we left high school, and possibly before. But my heart can't take probing deeper because I believe I would just uncover more betrayal. I don't want to soil her name due to her untimely demise, but dang, what do I say? Who do I speak to? How do I deal with this? I have learned more due to my wife's relationship with Lisa's godsister and her time as a roommate. They speak about her as being a free spirit and how she worked her low self-esteem and body image issues into a plus, somewhat like a legend. I hear these stories and all I feel is rage, hurt, regret, and self-loathing. But I gotta play it cool. It's been too long for me to come clean to my wife, as I don't want her to feel like I still have feelings for my ex-wife. Which it would definitely look like because a lot of these stories are new to me, and the feelings are fresh because it's often me hearing things for the first time, and me being blessed or cursed with a good memory. Allows me to match those stories up with situations I thought it didn't sound right on my end, but I chose to ignore. So here I am on Reddit, venting to internet strangers, trying to get this off my chest so I can move on with my life. So with that being said, F you, Lisa. I loved you with everything I had, and you played me, and to this day has me looking like a fool, so I hope you burn in hell. Alright, let's get some reactions. My dog effing loves rocks? You first. I'm really sorry you're hurting. This is a lot of hurt to be carrying. I can only begin to imagine the sheer weight of it, so heavy on your chest. There's a reason we say, "That's heavy, man," when talking about something painful. It feels like a massive weight on our chests, grabbing our lungs and sucking all the air out of them. We feel like we're walking through mud, and everything is rolling a massive rock uphill. Personally, I don't think it's healthy in any relationship for a couple to sit and explicitly gossip about the sexual exploits and affairs of a former friend of one spouse, who, perchance, is the former spouse of the other spouse. This is astonishingly unhealthy for any couple, assuming you did know about everything. It would be normal for you to bring up when you're feeling vulnerable at times, maybe vulnerable in your relationship, in your sexuality. Your partner would listen supportively. You might say, in the past with Lisa, when she wouldn't communicate with me, it turned out she was cheating. Lately, we've both been working a lot, and our intimate communication hasn't been as good as normal. I guess I'm feeling vulnerable, and it's bringing those old feelings back up. Alice might then say, "Thank you for opening up to me. I know it's not easy for you. You're right. We have been caught up in work. I'm missing that presence and intimacy too. You know I love you, and am committed to you. I have never and will never be anything but faithful to you. Let's organize 20 minutes each night with technology off after dinner to just sit and talk. I would really love that chance to connect." It's not normal and healthy for Alice to be sitting around with you or a friend and you there saying, "Yeah, well, Lisa was never comfortable in her body. She learned to own it though. I remember the time that she came back with these two brothers who were models. They were all over her all night. I didn't get any sleep." That's just so unhealthy, disrespectful, and toxic. I really don't understand why anyone who loves you would want to do that to you. I'm a stranger and I would never want to do that to you. Maybe Alice doesn't understand that you're in fact extremely hurt and traumatized by what Lisa did. Have you ever showed her this or told her that what Lisa did completely shattered you? My view is that any reasonable person would know, regardless if you showed it or not, that it would be extremely painful for anybody to go through. As others have suggested, you definitely need to begin seeing a therapist. Think about if you would feel more comfortable seeing a male or a female therapist. I don't know your race, but people who are black or persons of color usually find they feel a lot more comfortable seeing a therapist who are also black or a person of color. There are shared experiences and understandings that just cannot be taught, especially in relation to how you are expected to perform masculinity and sexuality as a black man, for example. Many therapists offer sliding scale payments too. You have suffered a lot of grief and loss. Grief and loss doesn't just apply to death. It also applies to loss of career choices, marriage, trust, intimacy, etc. I would encourage you to immediately place boundaries with Alice. Focus on discussing feelings, not specific acts. I find it difficult to be completely relaxed after. That scene in the movie really transported me back to when I first had suspicions about Lisa and how crazy she made me feel. Say, Alice, what Lisa did to me broke my young heart into a million pieces. Optional, I find out new details of ways she broke my trust every year. I left Lisa because for me, marriage is about trust, love, and commitment. It's about honoring the person who is in front of you, giving them your time, energy, intimacy, and heart. I had already buried that marriage, and then Lisa tragically died and was literally buried too. A terrible thing that happened to Lisa led to the circumstances of me meeting my future wife. I met you. You are my wife. I love you, and I've committed to you completely. I want our marriage to be about us. I think talking about feelings is important, and it's something I really need to work on. Sometimes I might talk about how what Lisa did made me feel because you're my wife and best friend, and you're the person I go to when my heart is hurting. I don't think it's good for us to talk about what Lisa did, her actions, all the time. It's bringing up a very painful past of mine. I don't want Lisa's awful acts in our marriage. I want our marriage to be about us and nobody else. I love you with my whole heart, in sickness and in health, till death do we part. I'm the luckiest man in the world to have found you. You could write this in a letter or a text if that's easier. Begin working with a therapist. They will be able to help you begin to process these losses, anger, and grief. They will also help you find a way to discuss the full truth with your wife and setting healthier boundaries. Good luck, man. OP, do you have a response? Thank you for the advice. I will be using some of it. To clear some things up, my wife didn't just outright tell me these things. Sorry if my post made it sound that way. We have great communication, and I love the way we can talk about anything, so I won't be changing that. My wife knows that the situation bothers me, but I've just never really spoke on the depth of how much. Honestly, knowing her and the way she knows me, she does. It's just things we've spoken about over the course of 11 years of being together, and me having a good memory as to put certain things together. TB12 Goat 7, what do you have to add before we wrap things up? I see no reason to keep up the ruse for someone's reputation simply because they died. Too often in our culture, people focus on someone's death. We should focus on how they lived. What type of person were you when you roamed the earth? Infidelity is abuse, and it's one of the most traumatic things you can go through. I'm not even 2 years from D-Day. I'm not even the same person I was before discovering my life was a lie. You don't get over that type of betrayal easily, and I absolutely support discussing it with a partner who honestly needs to understand the mind F that does to someone.